Hey, family, welcome to another great episode of Transformed and Renewed. Listen, if this is your first time, I want to warmly welcome you to our page at Robotic1212. And again, if this is your first time, welcome. And make sure that you like and subscribe to our page. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Yes, make sure you do it now. Don't forget it. And if you do forget it, I'm going to remind you at the end of this video, possibly throughout. But make sure you hit that like button, okay? So we have a great episode. Last week we talked about vitamins and what do vitamins do and how they can really affect our bodies. And sometimes people don't realize the benefits of vitamins in the human diet. And so this week we're actually going to be talking about minerals. What do minerals do? Why are minerals important? And what led me to these two topics is things that I see in terms of statistics and just human behavior. When it comes to people who may consume different types of foods, they may like to go for foods that may be rich, savory, sweet, whatever the case may be, something that satisfies your palate. But then again, nothing is wrong with satisfying your palate, but I also like to think in terms of what is going to really help your overall health, because that is something that you just cannot shake. When it comes to getting your checkup from your physician, they are going to tell you if you have been doing what you need to do. And if they don't tell you and they tell you that everything looks fine, don't go for that, okay? You know what you have been doing and what you haven't been doing in terms of receiving the nutrients that are essential for your body. And that's what we're going to dive into today. So, when it comes to minerals, what are minerals? Well, minerals are actually inorganic substances, and they're usually found in soil and plants. And when we think about minerals, minerals such as copper, calcium, iron, sodium, chloride, etc. These are types of minerals. And just jumping ahead a little bit, you do have two classes of minerals. You have your macro minerals, and these are macro because usually the intake for these are in the milligrams or micrograms. And then you also have your trace minerals or your micro minerals. And these are usually the minerals that you may get in smaller doses. So this could be micro or less. It could be pico. And so when you think about minerals, why are they important? Well, again, when it comes to minerals, they are inorganic substances, but they play a major role when it comes to the psychological or the physiological aspects of your health. Okay, so think about like your muscle contracting. When I think about that, you may wonder, okay, how is my muscle able to contract? And thinking about like bone, like how are my bones strong? Well, one mineral that is responsible for that is calcium. Okay. So when we think about calcium, we've likely heard from commercials, or you probably seen dairy commercials that have boasted calcium, good source of calcium. And sometimes you'll see on the labels, okay, it may have 10% or 20% of calcium. But sometimes you're not sure, okay, what does that really mean? Well, again, calcium, just for instance, is one mineral that when it is consumed, it can actually help with bone and teeth development. Yes. So you see this teeth development, calcium, and not only calcium, but fluoride. Okay. Fluoride also plays a role in like your teeth, as well as preventing dental caries. Okay. So sometimes even on toothpaste brands, you may see where it shows a certain amount of fluoride. And coming back to calcium, calcium does a lot, not only for bone and teeth development, but it can also help with blood clotting. So, for instance, if you get a cut, sometimes a person may bleed profusely, even if it was like a paper cut or something that could be small or big. But then you wonder, okay, if you get a cut, are you supposed to bleed, or does it not bleed? Is it more so just like a scratch? And sometimes, depending on your nutrition, it will show you, okay, do you have enough calcium or certain nutrients? Because if you do, then your blood won't continue to flow profusely or you won't bleed. Okay. After a couple of minutes, after a short amount of time, the bleeding will stop, and that is due to the blood clotting. So when you have enough calcium, that calcium says, "Hey, stop it." It's kind of like water flowing over a bank or edge. Once you have something there to prevent it, like enough tree lumber or logs, whatever the case is, it will stop that water, cause it to halt. Okay, and so that's something similar to what calcium does. It can halt it. But not only calcium, again, there are other minerals that can play a huge role. And I did just want to show you some of these things because, again, when it comes down to it, minerals are very important because when you think about deficiencies, they play a major role. So, one thing I did want to do is I wanted to share something with you in terms of minerals and kind of like a list of these. And I had my original slide up, but for some reason it didn't want to pull up. But I still do want to show you this information so you can at least see what this looks like. So give me 1 second. Let's see. How about that? All right. So we're going to do that. All right. So when it comes to minerals, what I'm looking at here is sodium and chloride. Okay. And so if we look at this, we can, of course, see, and this is from a textbook that I have. And I did just want to show you some pages from this because, again, I don't want you to only take my word, but I do want you to see that this is actual information. So when we look at salt, of course, salt is in pretty much everything. A lot of foods have salt. Cured meats, you may see something such as sodium nitrate, nitrite, sodium phosphate, etc. And you may wonder why are there so many salts? Well, usually you have a lot of these salts because they act as preservatives and they can also act as flavor enhancers. So retaining the moisture, they can preserve, preventing bacteria, but they can also prevent dryness of the meat. So let's say, for instance, pork or ham or like jerky. If you add a lot of salt to it, it's pretty much going to act as a preservative and prevent bacteria from occurring. But it also is going to ensure whatever moistness or water activity is available, that it is bound. So that way, once you chew on that product, whether it's a jerky or whether it's any other type of cured meat, just as an example, you can actually enjoy it a lot better. Okay. But when we think about salt, most people don't realize this, and this is just something in case you didn't know. But salt is actually available in a lot of fruits and vegetables in small amounts. So, for instance, if you were to go to the grocery store and you can look in the frozen section, whether it's broccoli, spinach is a good one to look at, and even peppers. On the back of that label, you will see sodium content. It may show 5 milligrams, or maybe smaller. I had to think about how many milligrams it actually shows, but it may show 5, 10 milligrams. Not a whole lot, but when you think about the serving size, let's say it has one serving, and let's say you decide to eat 3 servings, you're actually increasing that sodium intake. So you can imagine if you eat a lot of processed foods, how much sodium you're getting into your body. But let's look at this. I mean, sodium is actually good for our bodies. It is a type of electrolyte. Sodium as well as chloride, they are electrolytes, as well as potassium. So when you hear people refer to electrolytes, it's pretty much sodium, potassium, and chloride. Okay. And so products that may say you need electrolytes, you can pretty much get that aside from getting sports drinks like Gatorade or Powerade, because a lot of those, even though they have sodium and potassium in them, they also have colors. They also have other artificial sweeteners that you really don't need. And so when you really understand what electrolytes are, it will save you the hassle from saying, oh, I need to get a Gatorade because I need to get electrolytes. When in actuality, you just need to get a food source that has sufficient nutrients that you need. Okay. So this is just to help you in terms of if you ever assume something, I just wanted to give you that information so that way moving forward you can move forward on a good note. But one thing I did want to highlight when it comes to salt as like a mineral, it shows that excessive salt intake are usually excreted efficiently in healthy individuals. So this means that if you keep your body active, you are walking, not sitting down for long periods of time, but you're actually staying active and you actually have a decent nutrition plan, and you're also just aware of your environment, such as like you're stretching and you have low stress levels. This pretty much says that if you do have a lot of salt intake, that this can be excreted through your body. And one thing else that I also want to highlight is that high salt intakes, they can lead to diseases that nobody likes. Okay, so these include, but are not limited to, coronary heart disease, gastric cancer, osteoporosis, okay, stroke. These are just some. That doesn't sound fun. And so when we think about minerals, sodium is not the only one, but it is one in which many people get too much of. But if you get a lot of sodium, you can counterbalance that with potassium. And so when you get enough potassium, that can actually counterbalance sodium. And potassium is also actually good, similar to calcium in terms of bone and bone development. It can do a lot. And so when we think about going back to the macro minerals, you have, of course, sodium, calcium, and you also have some other minerals. And I don't have my original notes with me because for some reason they didn't want to load. But off the top of my head, I can remember you have sodium, you have calcium, you have phosphorus, and then you also have, I want to say, copper, and then you have, let's see, let me check my notes to see if they're right there, because I do want to tell y'all this information accurately. And so when it comes to, again, these minerals, calcium, sodium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, okay. And so these are usually five. Sometimes they may add a sixth one that may be sulfur or copper, depending on the source where you get the information. And then when it comes to the micro or trace minerals, usually other minerals such as iron, uh, manganese, cobalt. These are going to be some of the minerals that are micro minerals. And again, micro minerals are usually going to be smaller quantities, even smaller than a milligram. Okay, these could be expressed in microgram or even smaller than that. So they are essential, but you don't need a whole lot. Okay, of these. And so that's the beauty about minerals. And so now we know, okay, what minerals are. And then we understand the classes, which are macro minerals and micro or trace minerals. And then we understand, okay, what do some of these minerals do? But then, like, what are the food sources for some of these? And so when we think about the food source, and I did want to share this slide with you, and this is actually from the Harvard Health. Make sure to pull up. Okay. So yeah, this is from the Harvard Health, and this also has a table of vitamins, but this shows the dietary reference intake from the National Academy of Medicine. And so this pretty much shows for men and women what is the dietary intake. So when it comes to minerals down here, you can see for women, just for instance, for calcium, have anywhere from 1,000 milligrams or 1 gram of calcium a day. For men, it's usually about the same 1.2 grams if you're over the age of 50. And sometimes if you're over a certain age, especially once you get older, above 50 or even older, over 60, some minerals you need a lot more just because of deterioration of bones and muscles. Most of us, our muscles are declining as we age. So it is important to make sure that we maintain not only muscle and protein, but also other functions in our body, because I think about this expression, not to say that this is like a true statement, but it does have some validity to it. If you don't use it, you can lose it. Okay. And so it is important that when it comes to each of these minerals, they do play an important role in the body. But now, but I do know off the top of my head that when we think about resources, what I can really tell you honestly is when you really have a diverse consumption of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, beans, nuts, you are likely going to get a mixture of all of these. And that is, to me, one of the best variety types because once you target all of those, and you can even organize it to where, okay, this day I'm going to get X number of vegetables, X number of grains, fruits, and you can fit it all in like your daily serving. And it doesn't have to be like so much quantity that you have to consume, but it's just a matter of really just incorporating it. So just for me as an example, I may get some greens, so it could be broccoli, could be kale, may get roughly about 3 servings of that, and that is usually my vegetable. Then I may get a starchy vegetable. This could be a sweet potato, and that is also a vegetable, but it also would contain some potassium, okay, and some other nutrients, fiber, of course, if I have the skin on. And so let's say I may want to add some beans or even some wild grain rice. And hey, I'm getting that mixture of nutrients, so vitamins and minerals. Okay. But let me throw in, let's say, a handful of almonds. Okay. Getting those minerals in. Okay. How about, let's say, for meat eaters, we're going to look at the lean sources of meat. So usually I like to look at if it's ground 93, 93%. Make sure that's but usually 93% lean, 7% fat or greater. Okay. And so usually less fat is better. But also, I like to look at grass fed or organic because that is also going to show that the animal has less pesticide or even GMO, okay, interactions. Because one thing I will tell you, and this is just a side note, is when it comes to a lot of meats that people choose, sometimes it may show, okay, this is lean, but on the labels, it will show you whether it was a vegetarian fed diet or whether it was a diet that was fed without GMOs. Mm. But that's another topic. So, anyway, you can actually get all of these food groups in that will contain all of these minerals that I'm showing you. And this is just some of this list. I think this is roughly all of it, or it may be a subset of the minerals. But there are, I believe, a lot more micro minerals or trace minerals. But each of these play an important role in the body. They can even actually help with the prevention of diseases. And a person may say, well, I do struggle with trying to eat healthier foods. And I will say it does take just practice as well as a conscious effort. Okay. It's hard to add minerals to something fried because you pretty much have destroyed a lot of those vitamins. Some could be active, but the percentage is very low compared to the original state. And so I always like to look at, okay, do you want to eat for satisfaction today, or do you really want to eat for health like later on? And so when it comes down to these minerals, they play a tremendous role in the body. They can really help with like your physical function, cellular activity in your body, because once things start to slow or shut down in your body, it's not looking good. And so this is why we really want to make sure that we are getting good sources of fruit, vegetables, all of these other groups, grains, beans, legumes, lean meats, nuts. We want to make sure we're getting good sources of these because these contain so much like Y'all, they contain life, okay? And at a later date, I'm gonna really go into kind of like just the origin of food because I really want you to understand what I'm referring to. But hopefully, this have given you more insight in terms of minerals. So, in case you said, you know what, I think I know what minerals are, this hopefully will have given you some better guidance in terms of, okay, I know what this is, and I have these resources, and you can pretty much see this link. You can type it in, you can look this up. Harvard Health is harvard.edu is a resource that I look to, and also compare any information that I get. I cross reference just to make sure that the information is accurate. Okay. And so that is something I do. And I hope that, again, you find this information very helpful. Okay. So with that, if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that like and subscribe button at Robotic 1212. Okay. Again, this is information that I can only stress within a certain amount of time, but I do want you to know that I am going to expound more upon some of these topics because I really do want to answer some questions and even kind of help with just providing some insight on a lot of issues that people may face or even know of other people who may have faced similar issues related to these as it relates to health. And I want you to really understand some of this information that can actually save a family member that you don't even know about. Sometimes people may think medicine, traditional medicine, can do it. And I'm not against all medicine, but I will say, often we don't really go to the things that can actually help us, and that is the foods. Like, have we really maintained consistency with that? Have we really had a good intake of vitamins and minerals? So again, if you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I appreciate the love, family. Y'all have been so amazing, and we are continuing to do some great things. Trust me, in the coming months, I am going to. I'm still working on something, but just know that I want y'all to be ready. Okay, so if you're watching this video, make sure that you're ready because once I do an announcement, it's going to, it can bless you, but you also have to be quick with it. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. Make sure this could be somewhere during the summer. It could be, but you just have to make sure you follow us.